We started. I officially call this meeting to order.
Good job. Can we go around the table for names again, just so I have it on the recording, and so for the new people in the room, so I have your names?
Ron Graham, Director of Planning and Development.
Larry Potter,
Emily Wojcik. Julie LaRue.
Tim Ford,
Adrian Bellis.
Paula Ruth Finn. I'm here for Dan, so if you want, you can call me Danielle.
Okay. Sue Charlotte.
Shane Fackelman.
Lori Vincent.
I'm Eric Cooper for everybody. Next person on the agenda, you wanna tell us about
Okay.
Your project?
Okay, yes, I know some of you know about the project and we've talked around and Pete for a couple years now about what's needed. A tiny bit of history that I wanted to say prior to all of this that we want to propose to have happen. And a little history of where I am with this organization and where it's come from. Becoming a voice for people that don't have voices is important. People that don't have privilege, don't have equality is important. When I first started in 1983, I had no idea that this was going to be my life's work. I had no idea. As a dancer, as an artist, it was just bring the arts to a community that was lacking in the arts. What happened was someone said, can you please work with these people in wheelchairs and start dances? Sure, had no idea. Those kinds of things are important to make sure that we have a whole community, that the community embraces the equality and the gifts of no matter abilities, no matter ages. So doing this for 4 decades now, and seeing the changes in culture and in the communities and what needs to happen for the climate of economics. We now have 75 people working at the center. Emily is my person that takes care of all of those numbers all the time. Shane is helping with all the development and fundraising. So this core of teachers and drivers and people that work with 6 counties now of individuals has just continued to grow. Fortunately, I have a carpenter that I've been living with for 46 years. So he has made this with all of this great things that we can bring to people with disabilities and the community. That inclusion is important. This is an inclusionary program. This 11 acres that we have left on this property should do benefits for the whole. Working with the people with disabilities, making sure there's a gym, there's a track, there's a pool, there's a turf building, there's childcare, and preschool program, mental health services, alternative medicine, acupuncture, massage therapy, chiropractic. So this rendering, 95,000 square feet, is something that we're working on with how we're gonna lay it out, where we are on 332, we're at that piece of pie, which is all road frontage. We have the 11 acres to work with to try to make this happen. $2 million were given to us by Tom, graciously. I just put a grant into the economic development for $4 million. I spoke with, Bob Duffy came out to the center. I called most of the people on the council that make recommendations to Albany about who to fund. Some of the reactions, I was like, Laura, you don't have to call her. I said, yeah, I do. I'll send you all this stuff because you need to know that. And then I talked to the governor's office and I've invited her to come, sent her information. They wanted me to fax everything to them. So moving forward, we're working on more grants for what needs to happen. This center part is how this building is going to be laid out. This is conceptual, nothing's in stone. This part here would be a turf building that only needs like an acre and a half for a 60,000 square foot turf building with a track that goes, an inside track around it. This is the sidewalks, these are all the trails that go all around us, so people can come right from their houses, they're walking, come in and utilize the facility. I'm working with OCF, which is, I just spoke with a department in Albany for funding through the American Rescue Act for the help with the building for the childcare and affordable childcare and free childcare and preschool programs. I'll also be talking to an office in Albany about the mental health services. That funding that Kathy has sent down is for pool safety for kids, and we're working on all of those details as far as monies. I figure the first phase and a half of this building is gonna be around 12 million. So I'm just making that up. So, questions?
I guess what do you see this project complementing the park and rec master plan for Farmington?
Well, we're not gonna have fields outside. We may have a performing space outside somewhere if the property allows. But I don't see any outside fields, and I know at our last meeting, you showed us all of the places that you want to put the outside fields. I know there's a real demand for a turf building for the numbers of kids and organizations that are looking at that inside situation, especially where climate is the way it is around here. So that's the other, and I'm working with someone talking more and more about that happening. Also getting someone to sponsor that specific building, a bank, the NFL, these people that I've been talking to. So.
You're talking to the big boys now.
I have to, because they see I have big money now, so they're gonna pay attention a little bit. Sure.
Okay,
Which, is that like the most current
This,
concept that you work?
no, this is like in 2014. And that was proposed to be a bigger art center there, but that's the shape of what we need to do to best use the land and the parking concerns. Yeah, so this was one that was, because we're not specific about where we want the inside track, and we hadn't talked about the turf building at this point. So things are, still, we're still figuring out what's gonna be best. And Hanlon Architect and Schultz are people that are working on those things. But I don't have a contractor yet. My husband said I'm out.
you've worn him out, huh?
He said, don't look at me. I go, so I don't tell him much anymore. I'm like, okay, Lord, he just walks away. Yes,
I'm just curious about like what the sort of core component or what the core goal is, and like, is that what the 2 million, what was the 2 million specifically to fund, or was it more of just like, here's a start to your whole?
no, it wasn't specific to this at all. Tom was generous to a number of organizations that no one knew that he was going to do this. And it says in the information about the funding that he's giving us, it just says to enrich and to continue the good work in the community.
Oh, so it wasn't in response to an application. Oh, you would.
No, I mean,
It was
he
their-
given to us,
Frankly, was just donated to various agencies within the surrounding area, the different companies.
right,
Yeah.
he's contributed to us over the years. Since, I mean, in 1983, I sat down and with lunch with him when he was approachable. And said, I need to do this and this. He goes, Laura, you have no numbers, and we had nothing. So, but through the years, he's given for programs, he's given us for help in the community programs that we have for our students, all of that. Yeah, so, and he said at the meeting, when he handed out the $360 million that morning, he said, you are all in my will, but I'm giving this to you now. So we were all flabbergasted, and no, I don't know how they kept that secret, but they did.
Want to enjoy it now. Which people-
Right, right. So it's not specifically for anything, but I've been corresponding with the foundation and Erica, who is the director of the foundation, with him, and letting him know, you know, our progress on this, and I want to put his name on it. Because it wouldn't be happening without. I mean, when the economic development looks at the funds coming in, they're gonna say, oh, maybe this is their phase and a half, 1.5. And they see that it's gonna happen. They don't see that it can happen, they're not gonna contribute,
Right.
so.
Or they have to decide, you know, that their funds are funding a specific component that meets whatever goal of that grant or whatever.
Right.
Right.
Well, Bob was, he said, Laura, I know about you, I know what you've done here, I see what you've done. And you're accomplishing all of those goals. He said, so I know this is very fundable. So he's part of the committee that helps make the decision.
Your schedule.
Well, I want to break ground in the spring.
Sure you do.
I do.
She would have broke ground yesterday.
So we'll clear and we'll figure it out. We'll see how much money comes in, what we need to do first, what should be done first, the need in the community, what is the need first? So, I mean, that's what we need to find out. I know you did a survey. You had 80 well, I don't know, what did you have? People that
About
that
500
they
people.
want.
How many did we have? We had a few, yeah. It's a good response.
Right, you had a good response of fields, of activities, of more things to happen for this community.
Yeah.
That keeps growing.
474 responses.
Nice.
Would have been nice to be 1,000, you know. Maybe the next one.
Question for you, have you been to Victor yet to talk to
To talk to Jack?
that Jack or the town board or
Nope.
you?
Are they selling that property on Brace Road?
I have no idea. I mean, those are the kinds of things that
Right?
we don't know.
Mark and I met with them a year ago. And they were still pushing, you know, a parks building out there. And then last we heard, now it's gonna be for town equipment. So, you know, a year ago, they reached out to us before our survey. We said we wanted to see what our survey said. And then all of a sudden, you know, we hear that's not gonna happen.
I just.
But not from them.
Is that the Brace Road that's for sale for $1 million?
I don't know.
That property? Do you know?
I believe down there, that's
Yeah.
where they want to build the highway,
Yeah,
a new highway.
So.
but they told us they wanted parks and libraries.
Is it?
I don't know whose property.
Is that the town's property?
It's not town's property. No, they were looking to buy it.
Oh, okay.
Purchase.
Well, now it's $1 million. So,
That's what that's the, there's,
right, well,
the facility.
Vanessa looked it up.
Yeah.
And she said that that's what they were selling it for. And who's they? I don't know who has it.
It could be a something.
Isn't there?
So-
a
It
down there?
Should I
Should
be
be
talking to
public.
Victor? Should I be talking to Victor?
Well, it's interesting that the reason we say this is we've heard from representatives of various groups that have been using the school facilities over
Right.
there in Victor. And they're starting to get anxious because of the bond issue that's coming along for building and taking up playgrounds and parking lots and other things. And they were asking us, right?
Mhm.
to support additional fields here in Farmington, where there's more land according to them, or, you know, those outdoor activities.
Right.
So,
Well, the meetings I've had with Jack, with Pete, we sat together. And I said, this is, you know, a vision that needs to happen for the whole community, not just Farmington or Victor. But he was non-responsive. Okay, well, I'm also in touch with the library, because the library is going in this as well. So I'll be talking to Webman about that.
Which library?
The Victor.
The library in Victor that they voted down,
Yeah, oh, wow.
they called me and sat with me and said, they're not doing it here. I said, I will do it. So, and there's funding for libraries, and I'll be talking to Danny Wegmans about, because I wanted an interactive library, so there's gonna be a little grocery store in there for all the kids to get groceries, less like at the Museum of Play.
like the Museum of Play.
That's right,
Been there, done that.
yeah.
Well, part of what we are hearing here in Farmington is that, one, there is interest in a joint community center, right? Everybody agree with that? I mean, that's what the survey kind of led us to the direction. Secondly, we have received information from various sports organizations
Mhm.
over there that they are looking to Farmington for a solution. We've got a plan, a master plan that is about ready to hit the streets here. And one of the major things that we look to here is, how do we pull together all these resources to achieve something to benefit the community?
Mhm.
And when I say community, I'm not drawing the imaginary municipal boundary line.
Right,
I'm looking at the school districts, the kids, the families, the interactiveness of everybody here together. And it seems to me that it's going to be in everybody's best interest to try to find a solution that may be a hybrid, something that doesn't exist,
Right.
not even in Farmington. Okay? That the community capital of the world, around here. That we have the ability and the resources to sit around the table and feed off each other's ideas. And I think we need to
I think so too.
put that idea out there and say, let's run with it and see where we go. Now, that's just me. I mean, I'm not the planner here. This is the guy right here.
So your survey said, what are people prioritizing? Does it say, I really like a pool, we really like a gym, or we really like a baseball field? I mean, what was the most important thing?
We weren't really asking about uses in a community center.
Yeah.
It was more parks.
Oh, okay,
Uh,
okay. Spray park, I like that.
playground.
Swimming pool, 40%.
Yeah, that's right.
Dog park, are you kidding me?
No, indoors.
Everybody.
Okay.
Well, a dog park, some fences and some trash bags.
Right. They don't want to see the rest.
Before we get done,
Yes.
I want Lori to take one of those with her.
Yeah,
I think she needs to be aware of where we've been and where we're going.
Well, and I think likewise, you know, you having done this for what decades, have a sense of what are people looking for, what do they want, what's the demand, what have you
Mhm.
been hearing?
right.
And, you know, prompted you to come up with this in the first place, and I think that's another important piece of.
The inclusion, because of this, this monster that has just happened with my organization. It just keeps growing and growing, and I'm so, so happy families find us because it's a continuation of their education. But that inclusive kind of facility is where it's welcoming for everyone. I was in Toronto in 2002 for the post visit. My wheelchair dance company was invited. We were there, we stayed in a place called Variety Village. All inclusive. Pool, a gym, a track, a workout room. All these kids in wheelchairs, playing soccer, doing, all these students with disabilities with the general population. Doing whatever, and that kind of inclusiveness needs to happen. It's important. So, I mean, that's my first, priority is to make sure that it's welcoming to everyone. And affordable. So that's why I'm gonna, I've been writing grants since 1983, and I'm gonna continue to write them to get the right people on board to help make it happen. So.
I guess my question is, what do you want from us and from the town to be
Just to
supportive
go
of your
like,
vision?
okay, Lord,
Yeah.
code's good, everything's good. Even though Scott won't be in charge. He will be though, I will make sure. But yeah, just those okays. I mean, we did get approval at one point for DOT to give us a cut in, which I didn't know was a big deal.
Oh,
but
that
it
is
was
a big deal. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
We don't get those.
Dr. Matisio tried to get one. He couldn't get it. Yeah.
But then I got it. Really?
Right.
You didn't get one?
No,
Oh, that's right, okay.
yeah, you got down a little side room.
Right, and I know the light at the end of our property, at the end of that, there's the apparatus underneath for a light. That I'm not paying for. So if you guys decide to do that, it's all on you, it's all on you. But, those kinds of things, that cooperation and that need to collaborate. Yeah.
Anyone else?
I meet with Frank, president of Canada Paper Bank. His dad was amazing. I know people probably read that George passed away. But, amazing man. I went to the memorial service, unbelievable. I didn't realize he was like a Top Gun fighter in Vietnam.
Oh, yeah.
That's why he could fly these little planes everywhere.
The Sands family's been supportive in our community.
In Farmington,
Well, I know there's some ties. They have some things in our town. Probably privately that no one knows
Okay.
about.
okay,
When Dr. Bush was still in practice, we went to the same dentist. I was like, what? He had the appointment after me. And I happened to see his name and I was looking, she was making my next appointment. I was like, what? So, and I think he stores his car somewhere.
I know I used to teach.
Farmington.
They used to teach their kids. They would come to summer camp and do theater and dance and then ride a horse and jump in a pool.
I mean, they gave a lot of money for the Canandaigua Y.
Yeah, they did. And the property.
Mhm.
That fell on property, yeah.
Yeah,
Did
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
But I talked to them,
Mhm.
tried to get some advice about, how to, they weren't liking it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they said, why should I talk to you? We don't need the competition. I said, oh my goodness. I said, you're outgrowing that space already.
Yeah.
But,
They have a family foundation too.
yep.
Yeah.
Yep, I've applied.
Oh, the Ralph C. Wilson Foundation.
Yeah,
You probably already talked to them.
I have contacted them.
Okay.
They're in the NFL.
They're into this kind of stuff. because
Yes.
they're into Health and.
Yep.
fitness.
And the NFL's a nonprofit organization. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't.
Doesn't seem
That
like
doesn't
does it?
track.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like this.
Well, they just distribute it to the partners, so they don't.
long list of folks.
The Sands got $4 million from the economic development to move into Rochester. to renovate that.
Yeah.
So that's what I told Bob Duffy when he came. I said, I need the 4 million.
Plus 60 million tax breaks, so.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, so the like nerd side of me is like, you know, is there a feasibility study that has all the programmatic stuff figured out and like, or is that kind of like?
a lot of it is.
I mean, I see you have this, like the physical feasibility, but in terms of.
Yeah, we did. We got that done by RIT kids. They did everything. They know where the sun is at a certain time of the day. They know the noise pollution. I have a book this thick with all of that for that piece of property.
Does it,
And I have 6 beautiful renderings.
what? Does it have like the market side of it as far as like, I think that's.
I
more
guess
kind
I'm
of
wondering,
they're
like,
getting at.
I feel like the subtext of the conversation about Victor is like, what's happening over there? Is it gonna be competition or is it gonna be a market? You know what I mean? And like, I don't really have an understanding of those things, but I, you know, and that's not my.
Right, well, I'm hoping not. A
I me too.
competition. We want it to be a collaborative effort for everyone to benefit. The positive changes that need to happen for the Victor people moving in, all of these transplants that are here. You know, I get more and more students that are from different states that are coming in. So I'm hopeful for that.
You've got about as many cobblestone buses in Brighton as Brighton does.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's amazing that
Yeah.
all over them.
Yeah. And fortunately, DOT is finally, we might see them
March.
February, March.
Okay,
From 22, we were awarded 3 buses with our grant that we applied for.
they were
Instead of
supposed,
paying 100,000 apiece, we're paying 40.
they were supposed to come.
So
a
that
year
was
ago.
that's the
With
grant.
the COVID and everything with the transplants, what I do.
Tim-
and all that fun
Tim
stuff.
can,
You could, oh, you work with it, yeah.
he can
Yeah,
tell you
DOT.
horror stories about
Yeah.
getting deliveries.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
you work with David
vehicles.
Delphi, you work with
Right.
coaching equipment, or is that what you go through?
No, I'm not buses, I'm the truck side.
Well, they do,
Plow truck.
they do buses and snake boat. They're coming out.
Thank you.
But anyways, we were supposed to get those a while back, and thank God we have some great mechanics that keep them going, because we have 6 buses over 260,000 miles.
Are they gonna make you go electric?
Yeah,
They were
they were way more expensive.
way more expensive. When I started writing these, it
What
was
the
70.
mechanics gonna do?
So-
Plus they go, so I don't know, because it's not stop and go.
Right.
It is like, I gotta go to Seneca Falls. I gotta go to China. They go in.
So that would have to be a study. If you go electric, you have to see how long they're gonna last. And
The way the state is pushing everybody to go is
I
electric,
know,
Right,
same thing with the taxis in New York City. I forgot
Yeah.
to tell you everything.
whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
yes.
Well, the
That would
buses
be
are
ideal. Well, I-
503,000 back.
I sent an email to
8
Beto.
years, 9 years ago, now they're 134,000.
Yeah,
You know.
I sent one to Beto for the Amazon. I said, please send me electric buses. I didn't hear back from them.
We do have a stop assist one coming.
Yeah, that's right.
At no cost.
At no cost.
They hooked up on the order, so that was
Yeah,
very
so,
nice.
right, it was nice.
It was very nice.
So we do gotta get back to work on the
Okay.
planning for tonight. Is there anything else that you wanna leave us with? I think that we'll.
No, I will make some more inquiries about Victor and what Jack is and their people are thinking about.
I mean, they are always looking a place to put their parks department because what they have, they can't do what they want to do. That gym is not a full-size gym. You know, all the programs they want to do, they can't accomplish in the local, at least that's what they tell us.
Right, and it's. And I hear from parents from Victor. They're trying to do cheerleading with 135 kids. And they get kicked out of a gym when a sports event has to happen, so then they don't have the space. Then they're spending $700 on 2 times at the school, so it's. It's amazing that there's 25 fields up there and they're packed. They're packed with kids all the time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a good thing that that's what you guys are looking at to have happen, to make it more, you know,
Population keeps on growing.
that's right.
The need's gonna be there. It's just a time.
Right.
I grew up in Webster, so now Victor and Farmington, never, them moving out here 10 years ago. It's amazing how much in 10 years that I've seen.
Right, the growth.
There's growth, so you're just, projection and demand, seeing what's available. So that's what we're seeing here right now. We'd like to offer. That'd be great.
It's not unique. The opportunity is here to look at. I mean, we've been a intermunicipal water department for many, many years. We provided public sewers many years. It only seems logical that maybe recreation could be looked at in the same venue. And if that's the case, then let's take this seed and plant it and see if it grows. And what it grows into. But
Well, I know Farmington used all of the, the government money to build. They used their money to build, and they did it in phases. This is gonna have to be done in phases, unless somebody hands me 20 million they're not using. Maybe Tom will give me some more.
Here's a checkbook.
I wanna-
All right, Gordon.
Well, I really like the location and you pointed this out, but I just think that that's such a key piece of it and the connectivity to everything around it.
Yes.
I feel like that could make it very attractive for
Mhm.
well,
different kinds of.
one of the things that Lori had offered the committee was to have an open house tour at some convenient time, other than an evening working session. And so
Right.
if that's something that there's still interest in, I know that several of the members had said they'd never been there. They didn't know
Oh, okay.
what it was like. They've
Yeah.
driven by and maybe here's, sometimes visiting a site like that gives you
Mhm.
ideas.
Right, that's why when Bob Duffy said, Laura, I'll Zoom, I go, no, Bob, you need to come.
Yeah.
You need to come here. It's okay.
There's a lot of people in the community, and it's been spread out a lot. I mean, been working with Laura for 10 years now, been in the non-for-profits for a little over 30 years now. And, coming down back when I was younger, it's, 2 lanes, that's all. Now it's she's 4. But driving by that building, it was like, what's that all about? And it's nice to hear. And I can say, I'm not just tooting the horn and tooting it, but it's pretty amazing what goes on behind those doors, and not just our program, it's what we offer for the community as well. It's pretty cool. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks.
absolutely. Have a good night, safe travels to everybody. And I'm gonna slide that shirt.
Yeah,
just to have
this
it.
chair is defective.
It's very heavy.
So put it in Peter's.
I order another. Throwing it out the door.
We've been having some raucous meetings.
Okay,
People are jumping.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a real pleasure having you guys. Take care. Oh, and a pasta tomorrow. No, Wednesday. Wednesday and a pasta.
Really, best in the world.
It is.
Where? What is that?
Right here.
Oh.
Stop over on Wednesday.
Really?
noontime.
Oh.
Get some man of pot.
That's when your Christmas party is?
No, that's when the anapasta.
Oh,
What's the?
Why?
I know, it's just here on
Where's
Wednesday.
it
She
from?
does it every year.
She brings them in.
She takes it to the highway, she takes it to the court. she
What
takes
is
it-
that, like salami and stuff? Is that what you're
I
talking
get
about?
oh yeah, and then all kinds of peppers.
Oh,
Well, it's really,
I used to.
yeah,
Their
there's
buses
cabbage.
when they first started.
If we just show up Wednesday, randomly Wednesday, we can take part.
yeah, we can just crash this.
I have a work lunch, Christmas lunch, or I'd be here.
Thank you for giving.
Nice. That was nice. Help them out.
All right. Right, so. Status. You've all hopefully seen the draft. Was everybody able to access it? Finally?
I didn't enter my email address, but it came through.
I didn't get it to open, so
You what?
You
I didn't
did,
get it to open, but
I
wing
had
it.
to,
I'll wing it.
I had a hard time, but you sent it to me by PDF. And that was.
I can get you an electronic version, but just so you have it, there's that.
No, that's.
The goal for tonight was to get comments back from you all, the committee. And to make sure that we're all in agreement of what changes need to be made. We would go make those changes and then submit a revised draft. Let's get back to the town board at that point for them to start the adoption process.
Well, I think that the revised draft should go back to the committee. I know it means one more meeting, but we're knocking on the door. And we probably should see it in final form to recommend it to the town board. Rather than just, here it is, town board. And then have somebody on the committee say, I don't remember that. We don't need that approach.
Do you guys have a lot of edits? Comments? I know you don't.
Yeah, I don't have edits yet.
I just wonder, like,
I've only skimmed it. I've not really
I'm
read the whole thing.
Yeah,
in
I'm gonna
depth.
have to email them, but I just wonder if like, if we don't get a lot of really. Sort of,
Is there, I guess, for
yeah, like if they're pretty straightforward. Versus like, oh, we need to discuss this, but I don't know. I guess, I don't know what I'm saying. I guess I'm saying if we all have comments that are pretty easy to address, I'd feel fine just sending it along, but. I don't know. There's
Well, I
discussion to be had.
sent you you got my comments, Susan.
Send them CC on the same email as me, or you said separately?
is it, I didn't make
I
the
think you did.
town meet or the meeting with all the community
Oh,
people, but
we
is
got it.
that information in here
Right
too?
here.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
The last meeting there with the informational meeting with the people, residents, is that in here?
Yeah, we didn't include like a list of people that were there.
No.
We did include like a brief summary
Of what
in
they
like the
talked about.
public engagement section. And then the comments that we received are, basically this last appendix are all the comments that we received from people. To the very end of the plan.
Gotcha.
I got your edits, Ron. Need to look at them.
You found,
I'm behind. I didn't do my homework.
uh-oh. Well,
Uh,
Are those all printed versions? Can I look at one?
If anybody else wants to print one, I've got two other copies.
that's
Any
the
comments,
print-
Larry? Did you have any comments on the plan, Larry?
No, just the one I made at one time about that, where the parking was for all here. If that could be moved
Other access to the-
on the other side of the driveway. What I was thinking too is like
These comments are.
all fields there.
Fountain Park should be
No
private
kids.
person opt-in.
Play on. Well, the others are playing baseball.
It's just,
How they're doing it.
I was wondering if maybe
Yeah.
swing or slide.
Yeah,
or
but are they
something
just
like that.
saying-
Where you got.
like you just pay if you
Yeah.
wanna, yeah.
$50.
But I figured like everybody would.
sorry.
Sorry, I just want to make sure that we only have just one
Oh.
partly for minutes, but also so that
Yeah.
we can kind of work.
Yeah,
it.
that's okay. We're on.
No, we're just talking about the general comments, what we thought were
We're
interesting.
like way off base, sorry. Carry on.
It's okay, I caught those comments, but Larry, saying you wanted to, for Town Hall Park, move the parking
The one parking over where the entrance was,
on this proposed,
well,
on the proposed one, not how it is today.
oh, was it different?
So like, are you talking about where the parking location is today as it exists, or on like this proposed drawing? Like that parking, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that one
Okay,
there,
so-
if it could be moved over, maybe put something for the little kids to play with,
People are-
while the adults are playing ball or something.
Okay,
Yeah.
All right,
That's good to know.
But that would be something that
yeah.
would be part of the park master plan, which
Did you really write this stuff down?
What?
This is really, these are comments that people left us from the last meeting,
What's what's causing you pause
but it's
there?
like that we need law enforcement to sit, like, patrol the parks all the time. Just
was important
makes
to
me mad.
someone.
And that's what they wrote down in the whole thing.
It's just with all the adults playing, what are the kids gonna do? It's a long ways to go over to this park.
No, I think that makes sense.
That one makes sense.
Can I send you my comments in the PDF?
Anything major that,
I mean, I looked at it yesterday and it looks like very consistent with what we have reviewed in terms of the matrix. Did the public meeting change any of your like big picture thinking on that?
I wouldn't say it changed any big picture thinking. I did think that there was some good suggestions to include, so I did include a few of those items, like
Law enforcement patrolling at all hours?
I can't think, there were
I'm
more
all for
minor
that.
ones, but there were some improvements that or proposed changes that came out of those public comments. And then Tim, I tried to match some of the things in the 5-year capital program that were in there that hadn't previously been addressed. So some of that stuff. I know a lot of it was already in there.
Yeah, I mean, that was sort of my main takeaway was that it was consistent with what we discussed and any comments I have are probably gonna be more like semantics.
I thought this
I mean, I don't know yet. though.
That's great.
Did we-
So this, what I put on here is just sort of like a temporary cover while our
Ah,
designer was working on the final version, and so I wanted to get an idea from you, which cover you prefer. Maybe you like this
Oh.
simple one, or maybe you like those covers. It's-
oh,
This one looks nice.
different Ideas, yeah, I like that one too.
Did you see this comment in the Meeting House Park about the sites donated by the Herondine family? And that there's codicils attached to the land that automatically reverted back to the family should it not be used for parkland? Did you see that? Well, good thing it's being used for parkland.
No, I think it's important.
Yeah,
What lands are that?
and their Meeting House Park.
Oh,
I didn't know that, so I thought it was
A lot of
interesting.
people didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know it until,
till you read the comment.
the historian told me, and I put the comment in.
I appreciate it because it was very informative. I didn't know that.
There's a lot of information in this document that is going to be very helpful to the town for the next 10 years.
Mhm.
And it is unique. It's not cut and paste from other municipalities. So hats off to Eric and Matt Sousa. I think that they have done a great job there of reaching out, gasping, gathering back, rather, I'm gasping, gathering back the input that they heard, not only from this community, but committee and community, but from the other stakeholders that you met with, whether it's Fountain Park or whether it's Victor Village and everyone. So,
yeah, I think this is a great plan, and I was impressed with a lot of the sort of background and demographic information. Just the presentation of that, I think. Nice to have that in 2024. And for a community the size to have a plan like this, I think is really cool. Yeah. We need to get a grant so you guys can do feasibility for it. Really.
Well, we did try to include some programs where we might have the funding available. And I also just wanted to mention, so a lot of this stuff when it comes to like trails, which I think was a hot topic in a lot of the comments, there's a lot of stuff about trails, different ferry trails, athletic trails, history trails, like all of that stuff came up in basically every park. There's good funding available through GTC, or possibly through GTC anyways, and they have their trails plan. But it's likely to be revised soon, mass.
Their long-range
Yeah, Bill, good idea
transportation
about it.
alternative program, which talks about reusing railroad.
And they, unfortunately, like their tip, which includes a lot of those programs, is being, the deadline is 11 days away, so it's not really gonna be on this one, but in 4 years, we'll redo it again. And that would be a time to make sure that everything's buttoned up to apply for some federal grant money through GTC. So it gives us a period of time to plan out the remaining elements to have a more effective program.
Well, we've emphasized here in Farmington, the interrelationship of alternative transportation to parks and recreational programs. And, you know, I just think that the opportunity, if we could find something comparable to what GTC does for transportation, something for parks and recreation, where you could go for federal or state grant funding to do the feasibility study. Now, if you want to wait for that, that's fine. That just means that the cost of everything is going to be just that much more in the long run. Or you say to Victor and Farmington, okay, let's find out what it would cost to do a feasibility study or a shared recreational facility, a community center and outreach attendance from that. With everybody understanding what their responsibilities in sharing with a center component. I mean, I'm sorry, I said this, I don't know, 3 or 4 times tonight, but I keep running it through the cobwebs up here. Thinks that it comes out very cost prohibitive for both Farmington and Victor to do it independent of each other.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know that, a few years back, Village of Pittsburgh did feasibility for their community center, and I think that was a joint effort. Maybe it was a time. I don't know how that went, but it could be an interesting example.
Well, that resulted in the YMCA out there in Jefferson.
Did it?
Oh,
Or did that just happen sort of? Well, you know, their little community center right in the village.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right now they have that giant. They end up, anyway.
That is a monster. It's not been.
Oh, I've been there, yeah.
Is there anything in the plan that you think needs to be highlighted more? And I guess in the context of this discussion we had tonight, do you think that the action item that is prepared in there is appropriate to what the committee wants to show for a community center?
I think the difficulty you're gonna run into with that is when you say a community center, it's so specific to a location. That, no, it doesn't really exist. I mean, you feel we are in a position where we could say the community center should be here.
In Farmington?
I'm just saying, I'm pointing to a map and saying, you know, here's Victor and Farmington. The community center ought to be here.
Mhm.
Why?
I would do that.
We don't know that.
That's
Right.
part of the study, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, that would be part of it. I mean.
Yeah.
That would be sort of like, would people in Victor say, yeah, we want a joint community center on 332, you know, like, is that something?
Almost to Canandaigua.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that, you know, is that realistic that they would really, that the residents of Victor would really wanna do that? Maybe, I just don't have a good enough sense of like how people.
I mean, when you think about it now, Victor's Community Center, or Rec Center is all the way out towards Mendon right now,
The other direction.
the other direction.
Right.
So I mean, to come, if there was somewhere between.
Community center.
What's that?
What's
The Phoenix place?
It's in Fisher,
Well, it's
another one in Fisher.
Is that the Pinnacle?
Pinnacle.
No, it's,
No,
but
they-
it's near there.
They have their own.
Wait,
Oh,
they
They
have,
rent, they
Yeah.
rent space from
they
a
have
building.
another facility
Yeah.
next to Pinnacle?
No, it's in that Fisher area.
Really?
It's not far from there. Yeah,
It's
where their
across from
offices
where
are.
Cooler Construction
And what else do they have there?
is.
If they have like a small gym, some
a
activity
office, like a
room,
roof
their
activity
offices.
room, That's what, your activity room for like
Yeah.
birthday parties, I mean,
Oh,
And the gym is not a full gym. But it's gym-like.
but it's down 251. You're almost to Mendon.
Yeah.
Before you get to it, to a point, I mean, it's Fisher's Mendon, I call it that area, but.
Yeah.
So I mean, if there was space between Victor and Farmington on 96, which is tight right now, but let's say there was, I mean. Going one side of the town or a little bit, if you came more this way, I think people would travel because they're already going way over there. But I'm not saying I don't know where it would go. So people do travel for it, I think.
it's true.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like you said, you don't want to put like,
I mean, my grandkids gotta go all the way up to Henrietta, and Brighton to play soccer up there
Right.
every Friday night,
Mhm.
cause there's nothing around here.
Well, the same
So
goes for
expensive.
ice skating rink, you know. Had a guy, he said, I wanna put an ice skating rink in Farmington. And I hooked him right up right away with BME Associates and never heard any more.
Found out how much one would cost.
Well, he was willing to put up $2 million towards out of his own pocket. That's what he said.
I feel like it'd cost you more than that.
Oh, hell yeah.
No, I don't know, so.
Boy,
I
that's the trouble with it.
know.
Everybody wants everything in close proximity to where they are. And they're not recognizing the fact that the land base isn't there to allow that to
Support it.
happen.
No, the market's not there. If
Right.
there was, he'd have people jumping, you know.
The problem is just like with the ice rink, I mean, all these teams want to practice and. There's not enough time, and just like the fields, indoor fields, there's not enough time, or indoor basketball courts, if the dance team, whatever she was saying, or this or that, are trying to get in there and use them, you know, and then they got a game, like, everybody gets bumped because
But I mean, there's a
managing
reason.
what space is available is
Yeah,
tough, probably, and everybody gets that, 'cause
Well,
everybody has kids in sports.
well, in these there's one in Canandaigua, there's one in Perrington, but they also have to operate. They're trying to run a business or stay,
Right, so,
and so they need to maximize. They need it to be packed, right?
Yep.
So,
There, there was one thing that kind of jumped out at me as I read through the document. And that was the recommendation that the town should acquire some lands adjacent to that 13-acre parcel of Posey Swamp on the north side of the thruway. And I kind of looked at that and thought, that location is so remote from either County Road 8 or Hook Road.
That's in this document?
where did that come from?
Well, somebody
it
said
a
Town Park
person?
was remote
Oh,
on one of their comments.
I think,
So is it in the comment?
It's,
That's the old gravel pit though, isn't it?
It's on page 40. What I said in looking at it, you know, it's a swamp. Came to me that Posey Swamp is the largest freshwater wetland in Ontario County. The county is doing its park and rec master plan updates. Several of the goals that Eric had put in that document relate to or would help justify the county taking over that 13 acre and acquiring additional lands, so that maybe you wouldn't have to have such a long driveway if you come in off of County Road 8. And
yeah. So here's where the thought came from there. That was something that I had added. Somebody had mentioned potentially selling this piece off because it was landlocked. And so that's where this came from. Okay, what do you get from selling it off? About $115 or something like that. And then $1 back in the tax rolls every year. It's really trivial. So yes, you can sell it off, but you wouldn't really get much back. But because it's so trivial, could you maybe create a unique specialty park there? And this is something that is talked about in a lot of the state plans, which there's a lot of reference to, like bird watching, hunting even, stuff like that. And so if you were to, you know, these 4 parcels here that are assessed at no more than $200 each, for again, a fairly trivial sum, acquiring that land and having pretty substantial access for a potentially unique park or
Yeah,
bird watching, nature trails, whatever. And it's part of the largest wetland area in Ontario County.
yeah, I mean, it's almost like a little Montezuma.
Okay, and that's actually what. Are you saying that because I put the photo of Montezuma in there?
I thought it sounds smart.
Uh,
Yeah, no, that's. But wait, did I mishear that? Did you say that? There were the idea of something community center was there?
no.
Oh,
I said that the county's park and recreation master plan,
oh,
he has provided the goals of that plan in the document. Reading through those goals, it came to mind here that it met several of those goals, and it ought to be maybe something for the county to pursue, given the uniqueness of the wetland, and let that be an educational thing for other wetlands in the county.
Also, it's centrally located.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to it, but it kind of. I feel like it's not. It's kind of outside of what our focus has been on, right?
not
Like,
like priority #1.
yeah, and it's like, does it distract from what we're trying to, you know,
Well, that leads to my initial question, and that is that the first executive summary section is blank. And before something goes to the town board, it needs to be filled in. And I was kind of hoping we might be able to give some direction to Eric.
narrow our focus.
Appreciate it. That was one of the things I wanted to bring up.
I thought that we had sort of talked a little bit about what sort of the top 3 or 4 strat or action items were that we, maybe that was
I
just.
thought it was the conversation in the last meeting, I think you're referring to where, but I thought that was more like. It was more like of the 3 big ticket items, the 50-acre park, the community center and Fountain Park. Like which one of those would be the priority? At least that's my recollection of the conversation, and that the committee felt that the 50-acre park being more tangible, that the town currently owns it. That was like the priority of those 3.
But there are other priorities. Yeah.
I mean, I think my overall thought is, we're about kind of looking in places and where you know, what are we missing, right? And like Lori's item is something that could fill that hole, right? We don't have something, and we don't have indoor. We have plenty of outdoor, plenty of trails, parks, fields, all those. Although other groups may want more, we have a decent amount of fields, and you compare it to Victor, you know, we blow them away as far as what our parks have compared to what their parks have. So, you know, just focusing on, you know, so I look at it as like providing opportunity, and although that is nice and would be great, you know, what are our constituents looking for, and what hole are we trying to fill, you know?
I think part of the thought too behind that, was that if Fountain Park wasn't pursued due to cost or unpopularity, that you might have at least a partial substitute. You obviously wouldn't have the waterways that, you could kayak or fish on, maybe. But that you would at least have like a large nature area with natural trails to wander around. So that might fill some of that
Mhm.
desire if Fountain Park.
Yeah.
wasn't.
I always thought of Mountain Park is mostly for fishing, is what I've always thought it, but I don't,
They got.
hiking, yeah. Yeah. But I'm not sure if, you know, the location I think is difficult. But
Yeah, I mean, how would you access that site?
Well, you'd
Like you said, it was
acquire-
landlocked.
You'd acquire those other. I mean, that to me, that's the kind of thing to put in the plan as like, if this opportunity arises, it's in our plan, right? And we have a reason to.
but could we cover it in a
Pursue.
more broad language instead of specifically referencing this specific spot? Can we put it like general, like any opportunity like this? We'd be open to it versus naming it specifically. Can we generalize it a little? Not calling out this specific spot, but any similar type of acreage that may become available.
I think the town would be willing to contribute that 13 acres towards a larger, wetland oriented facility.
I think as the town owns it currently.
Right.
It's like. It's needs to be
Yeah.
addressed. It's like, this is gonna be part of something or not. It's kind of like, well,
Has the town had it for a while?
isn't it
They purchased it with the
with this?
50
piece?
acre.
Oh, okay.
So it's.
But there was no plan for it at the time.
That's kind of part of that. The throughway divided that.
Okay.
And that came through.
So we're just talking about developing it.
It makes sense to me to address it, you know, because it's part of that purchase and what is the plan for it? Well, we don't know yet, but here's an idea, which is a great idea to keep it as a passive type thing. We're not talking about putting ball fields there. We're not talking about all these things, but if an opportunity arises, we can make it into some kind of source. I think that. I guess getting back to priorities. Sort of like the big picture of what I've heard through this process is that. Community is definitely very interested in active recreation opportunities, right? It's not like everybody's saying we want
Community center indoors. Though.
indoor, right, people do, they want, but it's like, as opposed to some places where you go where they just want to do nature trails, right? That's like a different kind of thing.
Mhm.
So it seems like that might be a place to start with priorities.
Active recreation.
I mean, is that, I don't know, do you guys agree with that?
I don't know. I'm wishy-washy on it. I mean, I do think people want it, but are they willing to pay for it? You know what I mean? They want a community center, but are they gonna join it to make it like sustained, you know? I think a lot of times they, you know, they want a lot of things, but do they want to pay for it?
They want it, they don't want to pay.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I think a lot of it is. You know, this is not, it's a pretty conservative fiscal
When you
town.
say, yeah, well, right,
know?
but there's pay for it, like. You mean they don't wanna pay, they don't want their town taxes to go to that, or that they don't wanna pay additional? You know, there's different. the
Maybe,
town has a
maybe
budget.
both. Yeah, but maybe both, you know, this community's not,
I'd say like the elderly people.
this
wouldn't want-
community,
You don't wanna pay like on your taxes for it.
you know,
So I'm sorry, what?
we do have a lot of, you know, economically, you know, under middle class community. I think it's just, I mean, and I guess it's always gonna be like this, but you know, I think for some it's hard economic times. Some of the things we do that are great, I think what draws people is because they're free. We
So-
had Santa Claus on Friday, you know, we
Right,
brought in because it's free. They can come in and do it. It's not a cost. I just don't know if our town has the base to sustain like, you know, some great community center.
right, but in terms
Yeah.
of like priorities for this plan.
Mhm.
I think we had some other things in the plan that were more along the lines of
Right.
what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like that, there were like a few like special projects, and then there was just sort of your.
Your
other
dreams.
goals
Yeah.
for parks moving
Yeah.
forward that aren't necessarily like big special projects. It's like improving certain parks or.
Yeah. I mean, mine has always been about providing, you know, access and opportunity. Meaning I think we do need some type of playground, like Canandaigua has, that has special equipment to serve, you know, the disabled and handicapped and things like that. Those type of enhancements, that's always been kind of my vision as far as the things that we can offer that don't require a membership to a community center or a $20, you know, you take a family of 4 to Parrington, it's gonna cost you at least $40 to use the pool, right? You know, I wanna just make sure we offer, like, what we can do that's affordable to our community. So that's my priority, and that's why I think the 50-acre town parcel is the priority over a community center. Because I think it gives our whole community, it does something for our whole community.
It might be kind of smaller items, but. Yeah, it's not a swimming area, but splash pads.
Mhm.
We got a ton of comments about it in the survey.
Dog park,
Yeah.
Dog parks, which
Mm.
are, you know, obviously maintenance is required there, but they're accessible.
Mhm.
Since the, you know, in the summertime, you can just go there like you could any other
Mhm.
park and then cool off. Dog parks, depending on how you structure them. Some places have memberships. Some of them have residency requirements, but generally speaking, they're easy to get into. And
Mhm.
you can just sit there and watch it all.
yeah.
I think
And
most-
So how are we gonna express these priorities? Is this like project number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or is it gonna be like, we're gonna prioritize accessibility and connectivity, or like, how are you thinking this is gonna be expressed to the board?
I think the general public's gonna wanna know something specific. Okay. Well, accessibility and everything is great. It's not a vision that people can identify with. And I think that's what people are gonna wanna know is what are we going to see,
Right.
okay, as a result of this plan being implemented. And yeah, you may benefit from having better accessibility. But it's not gonna be obvious or apparent, the majority of the population you're trying to get support from. I'm not. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Like, we wanna be able to say, we wanna build a splash pad, or we wanna build a playground.
We want to develop this 50-acre parcel that includes this. And we want to do a feasibility on a community center to see if that's something that our community can support.
Right, our community being. What?
Or residents, taxpayers, visitors.
Wait, what, that's the question. You mean beyond Farmington?
Beyond the bounds of Farmington. I mean, should we be bold enough to put it out there saying we have received input that leads us to suggest a priority should be feasibility study of a joint community facility, a wellness facility that would be comprised of private, public sectors. And not zero it in just on one site.
Is that something you want us to include in here?
I don't know, I'm asking the question, I don't.
So I think.
Has anybody been to Parent? I've never been to Parrington Rec Center.
Oh, I go there a lot in the winter,
So. What, I know they have the pool.
for the pool,
What else do they have?
exercise equipment,
Gym or something?
and there's like a gym.
Is it like is it?
A
sort of like
basketball
small
gym,
Lions,
yeah.
Basically,
Yeah.
to a point, I mean, I know they call it.
So is it free for Carrington residents?
There.
Or does everybody have
No,
to
I
pay?
think everybody has to pay, but maybe it's discounted.
Like
I'm not sure.
non-residents, you probably pay more, so.
I think, I can look it up. I've always paid, so I,
Yeah.
you know,
Part of the problem that I see here with this community center idea
Yeah,
is that we've got two communities. That if you combine the population of both of them together, you might have something approaching the population of a child or a parent, where you would have the numbers of people to use the facility on a more frequent basis, which you don't have right now. And without that, you could build a Taj Mahal, but nobody use it.
Right.
we talk about there wanting to be a joint venture, but we've met with Victor many, many, many times. Adrian, you've been part of those, right?
Mhm.
And
Back in the
nothing's
day.
ever come up of it, and they seem to initiate, and then they seem to just kind of ghost us, you know?
Well, that's why I
I, I,
to Lori tonight, I said. "Ooh,
I just,
what she said about, I feel like I could see Jack's response being where he just doesn't say anything.
right,
Because he doesn't want to be, I feel like he does not want Victor involved with Farmington this way.
well, that's what I.
They'll beg for us to go that way all day long. but
Exactly.
They don't ever want to
I,
come this.
I don't feel like they truly want one
So-
either. They want us to help pay for theirs is what the feeling I get
I
from
agree
them.
with that.
That's the way I've always felt.
And so I don't know why we want to keep going down this road. They just want our money.
And I'm not saying build our own yet. okay?
No.
I'm not saying build
No,
our
I'm
own,
not
like
either.
Ron said earlier, I'm not saying that Farmington has its own, we're paying for the whole thing. I don't want that either right now.
No,
But I mean, if there's a community to work with, maybe we need to talk to Shortsville, Manchester, something that way. I don't know. But
or
I
Canada.
feel like we're just banging our heads against the wall with Victor.
Exactly.
I think Canada would have a hissy fit if they decided to come up here and.
Yeah.
YWCA.
Yeah, I mean, they
Yeah.
got the Y, I don't, everybody down there.
We already know Lori doesn't.
But this is
isn't
why,
well
I
liked,
don't
but-
think the joint is something that people truly want. Like, I don't think people live in Pumpkin Hook want to go to Fishers to Victor, just like people in Fishers don't want to come out here. Like, I don't necessarily want a joint one.
that's the hard part for me to get my head around, and I don't need to go continue, but I'm very much for intermunicipal cooperation, and especially when, yeah, our population can't support this, but I am having a hard time with the geography of the two towns and like trying to understand where would even a logical place be, where's the
I think that's the
critical mass?
problem, right?
I think that's our fundamental problem with teaming with Victor, is that like, where would it go where there's a critical mass of people?
That's
We have-
always been the problem.
Right, we have a great critical mass of people in 332 in that node. But people in Victor, they're, where's their critical mass? And are we gonna wanna go
Well, I
there?
mean, you got the village of Victor and then there's a lot of.
Up outside the village, there's a lot.
there's a
Probably
lot
the
right
school,
there.
I would
Right.
call the critical.
But how many miles is that away from? you know,
a lot of people
Auburn,
in
no.
Farmington, so like, that's the trouble, and then if you propose it in Farmington, then everyone in Victor is gonna be like, well, we don't wanna do that, and then if it's swapped, you know, everyone in Farmington's gonna be like, yeah, no, we don't wanna, you know, so.
That's what I was saying
This
earlier,
school is
like it
a-
almost needs to be, like you'd almost have to build it in that corridor between like the village line. Down past like Mark's Pizzeria where all those dealerships are or any of that stuff.
The East Victor
It would
area.
have to be up till Kitty Van Bortle here somewhere, so
right,
Victor comes over a little or we go over a little and that's it, like.
I mean, that.
You-
is
but
it
it's
worth
almost
trying?
impossible,
We don't
just-
need to solve. We don't need to
No.
solve.
No, I know.
it, Right, like, but is it worth trying? Does the
Well,
community want it? It seems like.
But we
Yeah.
have tried it. That's, I think, the point. We've tried it for years and
Well, I
years.
think, Ron, I don't know if you're kind of swaying towards Lori, maybe collaborating with her. Because
feel like it
she's
might be
got
too
something
small.
going there, do we?
I felt like I gave her the opportunity when I asked her what she wanted from us, and I was hoping she would say something like that. So I could understand
I mean, I
what
think
could
if
help direct us, but she didn't.
it was gonna happen in Farmington
that would be
with
the
what
spot.
she's got going.
Yeah,
And
that'd be a great spot for us.
it would.
Well, and you would have some very valuable land over there that Rob Laviano owns that could be added to the equation to provide the necessary, I mean, the hindering factor there is the Auburn Trail, and that's not gonna move. So,
Right.
It's not hindering if we had to shovel some like for parking across it or something, then walk in, but.
But I
I'm
think
worried
it
her
comes-
site's small and it's gonna
Also
be
comes
tight.
down to the fact with the community
Where the-
center, you gotta
Oh, it's gonna be located.
have more personnel and staff.
Why
in there.
couldn't it's all located?
Well, and are we ready? You know, we run a very different type of parks
On the line.
department than they do. Are we ready? You know, are we ready to become
You know,
like,
conversation
grow in that way.
Right.
They didn't see.
and make that investment? Because once you do it, it's going backwards,
Felt like they were okay with
Yeah.
Right,
space.
right?
right,
They just wanted more.
you
program.
gotta commit.
I think it's worth. Like, there's so many steps that need to happen in order to answer all of these questions, you know, that I have and you have and, I do think it's worth including as something to do to try to answer some of those questions until we do get to the point where we're satisfied that like, that's not gonna work.
Sounds like a bigger feasibility study for
It's-
just that project, like
Yeah,
do we take it on ourselves or do we piggy off Lori or do we?
and like, what would the
Do we do a
finances be?
survey that includes Victor,
well,
you know?
I would say that it should be somewhat shared between Victor and Farmington, and if Lori has $2 million, I mean, we're not talking a multi-million-dollar feasibility study here.
No, I mean, I'm not, I'm thinking of something very small scale, but just something on paper.
It
that-
has to have the facts put down in black and white, so everybody can read it.
Yeah,
And
like,
so they understand that if it goes in Victor, it's going to serve a population of thus and such. And population from Farmington is going to be somewhat hesitant if they don't live in the southwest.
I wanna see the map with the location and the circle.
Yep.
That's what I wanna see, and the number of people that it's capturing, and then how much, what the programs are gonna be, what it's gonna cost. And what's gonna be the cost to each municipality to run it, that's what I wanna know, that's what I think most people.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a huge study, I
No,
really don't.
I
think
don't
that's a
either.
Small thing, and it might be worth, because people have expressed interest in it, it might be worth. Pursuing that in the next 10 years, the feasibility, you know?
Yeah,
I think makes
in the
sense.
meantime, one could make the argument that moving forward with developing the master plan for this park expansion here at Tom Park provides the opportunity to meet the short-term needs that have been expressed by the residents of Farmington, Victor, for additional recreational fields and facilities, and to lead towards the evolution of some, to me, I see Farmington having the opportunity to develop recreational fields and outdoor activities and things of that nature. And Lori's got the mindset, she's gonna have a lot of indoor activities and components. What's left for Victor? That's what we need to figure out. I think that's part of the feasibility study. Okay, number one is putting it down in black and white, saying the communities that have gone for community centers have had populations of 35, 40, 50,000 people or more. I mean, Brighton doesn't have community center. It's got 43,000 people. Those are the kinds of things that you need to see spelled out. And then people will react to it and you spell out some more. And get it out there in black and white instead of behind the minds of people that meet every couple of years and, well, we're still interested, but you know, we don't got the money. That's not productive. If you really want something, like Lori does, she goes after it.
And I guess the other question too is, do you think there should be more or less demand for it in 10 years? And whether it's better to secure that now than later? You know, if there's not a lot of sites for it now, but you think that 10 years down the road, there's still gonna be demand for it, maybe there's gonna be more demand for it, but the location's gonna be even more constrained at that point because of future development. Better off starting the process.
I personally, for me, as a resident and somebody that has still school age children, that has kids that are not school age, I don't think there's a need, and I don't necessarily as a resident want one. You know, I like this area. I'm in a good school district. It's always said, we have the lowest taxes. We have great schools, and I'm not looking to increase my taxes. So I personally, as a taxpayer, I've gone along fine without one. And I'm fine if we don't have one. But that's me personally, not, you know, the community.
That's me personally too,
Mhm.
but I'm
Yeah.
also hearing from,
The sports families that want.
I'm taking that hat off for a minute, cause like
But I was a
I don't
sports
use a lot
fan.
of parks and I'm embarrassed
Yeah.
to say.
What if you wanted it back then?
But there's been a lot of
Did you say
traction
no?
for that idea, and I think it's
That
worth
doesn't help
listening
the sports
to people
family.
say, we wanna just explore this, and my guess is that it'll turn out to look like a really bad deal. That's just my gut, is that
Or look at Pinnacle.
a community center, if you do a real feasibility study and you put together the numbers, it'll be a tough sell, but I don't know that, I don't know if that's true. You know?
I think it's, put it in there, you need to build it with a foundation. That, you know, going into this, there's a lot of positive and negative components to a community center that haven't even begun to be studied.
But I think we all have supported putting in there about a feasibility study about it. And
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's,
I think
we're
that's what
good.
talking
Yeah.
about. I mean, I don't think
We're all
anyone-
supportive of that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think anyone's against.
I mean, the whole conversation started, I think, with Ron asking kind of what to highlight in the executive summary, and that being one of the big ticket items. So, we can highlight that.
That
You know,
can-
one of the things too, like, as far as like the structure of what to highlight, and we can't highlight all of our many goals, but just going off of kind of like the overarching goal and then highlighting one or two, you know, facets of that. You know, we're talking here about something that people demand, but also that residents of the community also, one, might not use it, and two, don't want to pay taxes for it. So our goal here is to provide high quality recreational lands, facilities, and programs in a fiscally appropriate manner. We can highlight this recommendation that's come from the plan and say, there's been a lot of demand and support through the survey for this type of facility. There's somebody who's planning one and has received some grant funding to construct something like this. It's something that the town might want to approach and study further to make sure it makes financial sense for them to be, you know, involved and what level that might be. And to continue being fiscally responsible, potentially partnering with neighboring municipalities. to provide a greater user base. I like that, the executive summary, that sounds appropriate, acceptable.
Like anything, you take care of what you have and expand what you can at a feasible pace or price. You're not gonna make everybody happy in one day. You're not gonna make everybody happy in 10 years if they think they need it now, but they're not gonna pay for it now. And then like, so
I think, you know, our big items are, or the feedback, the big things were kind of improving, enhancing what we have currently at the parks. The 50 acres, you know, there's a lot of interest in what we could do with that. And then I think, you know, the connecting, you know, our trails, you know,
Parks.
yeah, sidewalks, I
Yeah.
think are important to people, things like that. And then feasibility for the larger items, which is a community center, fountain park. I think that's kind of a summary of our,
I would agree with that.
you know, kind of in that order, you know, we need to maintain and enhance what we have through this next park. I guess the trails and sidewalks in there too, and then kind of at the end, the feasibility of the two big items, community center and fountain park, which are kind of
Yeah.
similar, right?
Yes.
As far as, you know,
Is it like, I know you talk a little bit about the budget. Does there need to be any discussion of orders of magnitude here, like? You know, what our existing budget can support? Without
Well, when
making,
we first started, I mean, Pete said, don't worry about the monies, and they'll figure out how to pay for it.
well, they took my Mertensia thing off the budget,
They took what?
the pavilion for Mertensia. So,
Just for this year.
for 2025,
Well, yeah, but 20, right.
yeah,
I don't think it doesn't mean
I
it's
feel
not
like
gonna
for
be
the last
done.
4 years, yeah. Yep, I mean, I think it's a high likelihood it's not gonna be done if they take it out of the budget,
About that.
yeah.
We're still talking.
But that was something that's been promised for years, you know.
but like, is all the
Yeah.
stuff in this plan, other than sort of ongoing operations, expected to be funded by special grants over and above the town's revenues, or is there a portion of this that would just kind of be included in our general fund? I guess that's the.
I think that the parks and recreation fees that are paid for every dwelling that comes into town.
Pay for some of this.
So they, speaking of a new one right there, Diane. Just pulled out a chunk of change for his new house.
I'm assuming it all goes into the general fund though,
No.
and
No,
it goes into a separate one, we got a stash of money we didn't know about?
Dedicated parking,
Okay,
according to state law.
It's just for capital expenditures, right?
Yep. Whether it's equipment, land acquisition, things of that nature.
are we able to find out how much is in there?
Why,
Sure, it's in the budget.
Huh?
I imagine it's in the budget.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just curious, I mean, that gives you a, you know,
Well, again, I don't need to draw us into that, because I do remember that now, but that was not our charge. We're not here to budget out all the projects, but, I was curious, but. So in terms of, I know it's able, but in terms of helping to put together the executive summary, do you want us to just offer some ideas of what? Or do you think you have a good sense of what we've just talked about?
I think I have a pretty good sense, unless anybody has any last additions, and we're also gonna be in January. So,
Now I see what you're saying. So, yeah,
so.
I was like, this is all buttoned up. Why do we need a meeting again?
But
it's not so simple to button up.
Sorry, I need to shut.
sounds like the kind of priorities talk about We continue to increase interest in active recreation, accessible playgrounds, splash pads, dog parks. Feasibility studies for larger acquisitions like, or larger. Fountain Park and the community center. And adding connectivity, trail sidewalks.
What do you want from the committee as far as one of these things?
I mean, it sounds like people like that one better, is that how you're doing it?
I like it.
I think my only suggestion is maybe move the town of Farmington logo more towards the center, but,
Just for the record. Residents of Parrington, kids 13 and under for the pool, $4.50, non-residents $6.50. So
For the
they still
year?
charge, no, just to use it one time.
Oh, $4.
Yeah, $4.50.
Pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
the YMCA doesn't allow non-members in.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, that was a YMCA is private.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah. So I go to Parrington because I'll just pay $2, $2 more than what a resident would pay a handful of times a year I go. Versus, I just drive over to Parrington.
Interesting.
How hard is it to get into the pool up to the school?
They used to have open swim and it was like $1 a person. At 6 AM and then like other times, but I don't know if they do that anymore.
Last I knew, they only did it like right early in the morning, like.
Used to that you could go Friday after,
Friday night,
Friday night.
yeah.
That was the big, you bring your kids in the winter.
But
It was like $1 a person, but
And they don't.
I don't think they do it anymore. Or the other one was 6 AM. Lap swim.
Well, thank you
Well,
for bearing with us.
Keep it.
if anybody reviewing this has very specific comments that they want to make, you want to mark it up or send me a PDF or a Word document of their suggested revisions, please do that. Unless it's something substantial, I'll probably be able to make the change. If it is something bigger, address it in January or just send an email. I'm thinking about this. But yeah, please let me know, give me comments back so we can get this done in January. We'll get that.
We're not coming in January to start rehashing again, the things that should have been already hashed.
Oh.
I feel like we've
Such a,
hashed.
I feel like we've hashed it all.
Yes.
Then what are we doing? We're just
Get it
rubber
out.
stamping.
We're in January,
I mean, in a good way. We're stamping.
as a committee, recommending to the town board a draft plan document. We're also going to then establish a schedule for the town board's formal adoption process. And identify the seeker that has to occur with this action.
You're saying just classifying, because the town board will be the lead agency.
Right. But again, as anything goes before the town board for adoption, seeker has to be addressed. Especially when it's something that has the possibility of altering or affecting land.
So I will try to get everybody a revised document as soon as I can by next week, hopefully, so that we can get everybody's last comments, start working that in, so that when we get here in January, it should be pretty easy. That's the goal.
And Susan, don't hesitate to criticize my comments, and
Oh, no.
How do we know they're your comments?
I'm not criticizing.
because they'll look better.
What?
Susan doesn't, they'll look better.
What?
I don't think it's,
When's
just
the
said
meeting?
January,
What's
It's
the
gonna be
meet?
January 6th.
Okay. That's what it's.
my mother's birthday.
Oh.
I mean,
I-
there you go.
January 6th.
Okay,
You know, we love the Mertensia sledding hill and there's a lot of comments about that. Do we have any other opportunity to clear areas for sledding in the town besides that park? As if any of the 50 acres have some good downhill
Yes.
action.
Yeah.
You know what, we could also, I don't know, how swampy is it, that parcel of land? Could camping be done there for like Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts?
15 acres in North Freeway.
Uh-huh.
I wouldn't want to camp right next to this.
A lot of people do, Junius Ponds is down there.
There's a campground there?
Yeah, you don't see it when you go by and.
Was that, in that 50 acre, that would be not, you know,
Right there.
to do something for the
Seasonal.
Boy Scouts,
sleep
Girl
there.
Scouts
About on
camping.
there, it's like, how can you stand that?
It is pretty steep.
You get used to that after a while, you don't even notice it.
So-
It's bad enough by my
16 to
house.
30% in these red areas and
Yeah.
31 to 60%.
I suppose some people don't.
Some of these.
Do the Reds one and then get the trees.
There's different areas where you can have age groups and certain things.
I went there once.
And still have cross country.
These trains are too much.
Got a lot of
Yeah.
flexibility.
Yeah.
And trying to preserve the wooded areas. Paramount.
There's also some unique comments in there. I'm sure it's the same person all the times that.
Archery, yes.
I did see that.
I
It's always kind of cool. I mean, it's unique.
I feel like there's some safety liability with that we want to stay away from, but I don't want to be walking and the arrow fly by me.
I thought this was interesting.
They do
the
it.
slopes.
Do they?
There's, in Ithaca, in the conference, there's like this playground, it's called it like the anarchy zone or something. like that.
That's very good.
It's not gonna load apparently, it's great. But like, it's basically a free play area for kids, it's got tires and dirt and rocks or whatever, like just stuff to climb on, there's like big, big culverts, they're probably 4 feet or something like that, so you can run around a bit, whatever. So it's just like very flexible play for the kids to just.
We used to do that in Farmington, where they filled the ditch in.
That is kind of growing in popularity, that
You better not.
Just kids have the freedom to
Okay.
do whatever, instead of the more traditional
That's what I mean.
play area.
That's what we had.
That's
Those
so
kids
funny.
growing up.
I know.
That's kind of like my childhood.
I know.
So that's why it's not growing in
Run
popularity,
through the
that
fight.
let them be kids.
Well, maybe-
Oh my God, they're coming through there, you forgot about the butcher.
Right down in that. That was fun.
If you take this, bring it down here.
All right, do we need to officially adjourn?
Yep.
I move to adjourn.
Yeah.
I second.
We all thought, we all.
Thank you all.
A lot of parking comments.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
parking is an issue at all.
I know, parking's an issue. I don't like, parking's a stressful thing I don't like to deal with. I have to be somewhere at a certain time. Well, it's like, what's the parking like? What if I can't get a spot? It takes me 20 minutes, you know?
Yeah.
I gotta park for a